There comes a point in every person's life when you must stop blaming the environment, stop blaming the past, stop blaming people, and confront the truth. Your life today is the result of the discipline you kept or the discipline you avoided. Discipline is not punishment. Discipline is the bridge that carries you from potential to purpose. Dr. Myles Munroe always said, nothing changes until you change. And discipline is the tool of that change. You cannot pray for a future you aren't preparing for. You cannot desire greatness and live casually. You cannot seek elevation and practice inconsistency. The world respects order. Opportunities respect preparation. And success, real, lasting success, bows only to discipline. Most people do not fail because they lack dreams. They fail because they lack daily habits that support those dreams. The dream is free, but the grind is sold separately. And discipline is the currency that pays for it. Your life becomes unrecognizable when you stop living by emotions and start living by principles. Emotions change, feelings shift, motivation disappears, but principles remain. Principles produce predictability. Predictability produces mastery. Mastery produces transformation. If your life today looks exactly like your life last year, listen closely. You are not lacking potential, you are lacking discipline. A new life requires a new routine. A new season requires new structure. A new identity requires new habits. You can't want to transform life, but keep your old patterns. You can't want a renewed mind, but continue feeding your old distractions. You can't want greatness and invest your time in entertainment, excuses, and comfort. Growth demands discomfort. Discipline requires sacrifice. Maturity means choosing what you want most over what you want now. Every great man and woman became great through one simple commitment. They disciplined themselves beyond the level of the average, not because they were smarter, not because they were luckier, but because they mastered self-control. They woke up when they didn't feel like it. They studied when their mind was tired. They practiced while others played. They built while others slept. You cannot rise while living like everyone else. You cannot dominate while thinking like a victim. You cannot master life while being mastered by your impulses. Listen carefully. Your future is too big to fit inside your current habits. Your destiny is too large to be carried by your comfort zone. Your calling is too important to be led by your emotions. Discipline is not restrictive. Discipline is protective. It protects your potential from being wasted. It protects your time from being stolen. It protects your mind from being distracted. When you discipline yourself, you train your mind to respect your goals. You train your emotions to bow to your purpose. You train your body to follow your vision. A disciplined person becomes unstoppable. Not because life becomes easier, but because you become stronger. You become wiser. You become sharper. You become focused. Your life becomes unrecognizable not by miracles, but by daily decisions repeated with consistency. And one day you look in the mirror and say, I don't know who I used to be, but I know who I am becoming. That is the power of discipline. It turns confusion into clarity, chaos into order, potential into purpose, dreams into reality. If you want a life you've never lived, you must discipline yourself like you've never done. Stop waiting, stop waiting, start organizing, start structuring, start prioritizing. The future is ready. The only question is, are you disciplined enough to meet it? Purpose is not something you stumble into. It is something you grow into through discipline. Purpose does not reveal itself to the lazy, the distracted, or the inconsistent. Purpose is attracted to order, to structure, to sacrifice. When you understand why you were born, discipline stops feeling like pressure and starts feeling like alignment. You no longer see discipline as restriction, you see it as preparation. You recognize that everything meaningful in life requires consistent investment. You can't become who you were designed to be while living like everyone else. Purpose demands a higher standard. And the truth is, your purpose will never ask for permission to inconvenience your comfort. Think about a seed. Inside every seed is a forest, but it requires discipline to grow. You cannot plant a seed today and expect a tree tomorrow. You water it daily, protect it from weeds, ensure it gets sunlight, and wait with patience. That process is discipline. And just like that seed, your purpose is buried inside you. But unless you consistently water it through habits, learning, practice, sacrifice, it cannot evolve into the greatness waiting inside you. Many people admire the tree, but forget the discipline it took to grow it. Look at athletes. The world sees the medal, the victory lap, the celebration, but no one sees the 5 a.m. practices, the bruises, the failures, the lonely mornings when the world is asleep and they are sharpening their craft. That is discipline. That is purpose in motion. They did not achieve greatness because they were talented. They achieved greatness because they respected their purpose enough to show up even when motivation was gone. Your purpose is waiting for you to show up with the same consistency. Purpose will test you. It will ask you to wake up earlier than your excuses, to say no when your feelings scream yes, to walk away from distractions that steal your future. Purpose will require you to make decisions that others don't understand. People may call you obsessive, too focused, too serious. But they don't understand that purpose-driven individuals cannot afford to be casual. Casual living produces casual results. Purpose requires intensity, clarity, and commitment. If you study the most influential people in any field, they all share one trait: ruthless discipline. They knew their purpose demanded obedience. A writer who never writes will never publish. A singer who never trains will never perform. A leader who never learns will never inspire. Purpose without discipline remains a fantasy. Daily life gives us perfect examples. Think about your phone battery. You don't wait for it to die before you charge it. You maintain it. Why? Because it powers your communication, your work, your connection. In the same way, discipline is the charger of your purpose. Without it, you drain. Without it, you slow down. Without it, you lose power. Yet many people treat their dreams with less care than their phones. They allow wasted time to drain them. They allow negativity, procrastination, distraction to deplete them. And still they wonder why their life isn't moving. Purpose cannot flow through a life that refuses discipline. Imagine a car. Even the most expensive car is useless without fuel. Discipline is the fuel of purpose. You may be gifted, intelligent, creative, and full of potential, but without discipline, you go nowhere. Many people have dreams parked in the garage of their mind because they refuse to put in the daily effort needed to drive them into reality. Discipline is what moves your life from intention to manifestation. Purpose also demands emotional discipline. You cannot be ruled by your moods and expect to fulfill destiny. Successful people do not depend on motivation, they depend on habits. They understand that feelings are temporary, but purpose is permanent. You won't feel inspired every day. You won't feel strong every morning. You won't feel excited every season. But discipline trains you to move even when feelings fluctuate. Discipline teaches you to say, my purpose is greater than my emotions. Remember this, your purpose is watching your decisions. Each decision is a vote for or against your destiny. When you choose to study instead of scrolling, you vote for your future. When you choose to exercise instead of procrastinating, you vote for a stronger self. When you choose to invest your time wisely rather than waste it on meaningless distractions, you vote for your purpose. Your destiny is shaped not by big moments, but by small repeated choices. Look at your life. Everything meaningful you have ever achieved came from discipline. Whether it was learning a skill, finishing a project, changing a habit, building a business, or improving your health, discipline was the invisible force guiding you. And everything you regret in life came from a lack of discipline. Overeating, overspending, overthinking, procrastinating, staying in toxic environments, these are not destiny issues. These are discipline issues. Purpose demands discipline because purpose is heavy. It requires strength to carry it. Discipline is what builds that strength. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you are lifting the weights of destiny. Every time you wake up early, push yourself, ignore distractions, and focus on your goals, you are training for the life waiting for you. Purpose is not fulfilled accidentally. It is fulfilled intentionally. People often say, I'm waiting for the right time. But purpose does not respond to time. It responds to discipline. When you get disciplined, time becomes your servant instead of your enemy. You begin to see results. You begin to grow. Your life begins to rise. And eventually, you look around and realize everything has changed. You have changed your habits, your standards, your thinking, your environment, your confidence. They all transform. And your life becomes unrecognizable because discipline has shaped you into the person your purpose requires. Order is the silent force that separates those who rise from those who remain average. Nothing great can survive in chaos. Success is not built on talent alone. It is built on structure, clarity, and disciplined organization. Order is the environment where greatness breathes, grows, and multiplies. When your life is disordered, your potential suffocates. Your ideas have no place to grow. Your energy has no direction, and your progress has no consistency. But when you bring order into your life, everything inside you begins to align with your destiny. Think about your room. When the room is messy, clothes everywhere, papers scattered, objects piled up, you don't feel peaceful, you don't feel inspired, you don't feel productive. Why? Because physical clutter creates mental clutter. But the moment you clean that room, something shifts inside you. Suddenly you breathe easier. Suddenly ideas flow. Suddenly you feel capable again. That change didn't come from a miracle. It came from order. That same principle applies to your entire life. Clean your life the way you clean your room and watch your destiny begin to clear up. Imagine a business. Even the most brilliant business idea will collapse without structure. Finances must be organized. Meetings must be scheduled. Roles must be defined. Plans must be tracked. If there is no system, the business crumbles. In the same way, your life is a business. Your time is your currency. Your habits are your strategies. Your routine is your structure. The question is, are you managing your life with the order that success requires? Daily life gives us powerful examples. Look at a construction site. Before one brick is laid, there are blueprints. Detailed, precise, clear. They don't start building the second floor before planning the foundation. They don't guess their way through the process. They follow structure. Without that order, the building would collapse. Now imagine your life as that building. You cannot build your future on chaos. You cannot stack dreams on instability. You cannot place long-term goals on top of short-term distractions. Your foundation must be order, or everything you build will crumble. People often say, I want success, but do they create the order success demands? Do they wake up with a plan? Do they schedule their priorities? Do they organize their time? Or do they let the day control them instead of controlling the day? Success cannot land in a disorganized life because it has nowhere to sit. Think of success as a guest. If your house is filled with clutter, that guest cannot come in. If your mind is filled with confusion, that opportunity cannot stay. Order creates space for greatness. Look at your phone again, your most used tool. When your phone storage is full, it stops functioning properly. It lags, freezes, refuses to download new things. But when you delete unnecessary files, clear the junk, and organize the folders, suddenly everything runs smoothly. Your mind works the same way. When your life is filled with unnecessary relationships, unproductive habits, toxic environments, and scattered focus, your potential freezes. But when you remove the mental junk, suddenly you have space for growth, clarity, and creativity. The difference is order. Order also reveals what truly matters. When everything is scattered, everything feels important. But when you create structure, you start seeing the truth. Only a few things deserve your time, your energy, your attention. Order eliminates confusion. Chaos makes everything feel urgent. Order makes everything feel possible. When you organize your priorities, you stop running in circles and start moving with intention. You stop reacting and start directing. Think about cooking. If the kitchen is messy, if ingredients are missing, if tools are scattered, the meal becomes stressful and chaotic. But when everything is placed where it belongs, cooking becomes smoother, faster, and more enjoyable. That is what happens when you organize your life. The things you used to struggle with become manageable. The dreams that felt overwhelming become achievable. The chaos that once drained you is replaced with clarity. Order multiplies your time. Without structure, you waste hours without realizing it. You scroll your day away. You drift through tasks. You lose energy. But when you create order, when you plan your day, set routines, organize your environment, you gain hours back. You become efficient, focused, sharp. You begin to move with purpose instead of wandering without direction. Order also protects your energy. Every messy environment steals a little piece of your mental strength. Every unorganized task drains your motivation. Every chaotic routine weakens your discipline. But when you establish order, you shield your mind from unnecessary drain. You create a life where your energy is preserved for the things that matter. Look at nature. Everything in nature follows order. The seasons have a system. The sun rises and sets with perfect timing. The oceans follow rhythm. The human body follows structure, heartbeats, breathing patterns, biological cycles. Nature thrives because it is ordered. When you bring order into your life, you step into alignment with the very principles that sustain the universe. Order is not about perfection. It is about intentionality. It is about knowing where you are going and structuring your life to support that direction. You cannot desire abundance and live in disorder. You cannot expect clarity while living in clutter. You cannot demand success without creating the environment that success requires. Order is the foundation on which every dream stands. Without it, potential collapses. With it, you become unstoppable. Consistency is the hidden power that ordinary people ignore, but extraordinary people master. Consistency is not glamorous. It's not exciting. It doesn't give instant results, but it is the quiet force that shapes destinies, builds champions, and turns average individuals into unstoppable forces of influence. Most people wait for the perfect moment, the perfect opportunity, or the perfect burst of motivation. But the truth is, transformation begins the moment you decide to do the right thing repeatedly, even when you don't feel like it. One action can inspire you, but consistent actions will transform you. Think about going to the gym. You don't get stronger by lifting weights one time. You don't build muscle by doing one workout. But if you go daily, even for just 20 minutes, something begins to happen. You may not see it on day one. You may not notice a difference in week one, but your body is changing, your strength is building, your endurance is growing. Consistency is quietly preparing you for the results you will one day be proud of. Most people quit too soon because they expect transformation to shout. Consistency whispers. It doesn't announce itself. It works behind the scenes, shaping you day by day until the mirror reflects someone you never thought you could become. Consider a student. A student who studies for 10 minutes every day will outperform a student who studies for 5 hours once a month. Why? Because the brain learns through repetition, not intensity. Life is the same. You don't need to change everything at once. You just need to do something small every day. Over time, the small things become powerful. Small habits create big results. Little decisions shape massive outcomes. Consistency is the compound interest of self-growth. Every small action adds up, multiply, and eventually transforms your entire life. Imagine a dripping faucet. One drop seems insignificant. But if that faucet drips all day, all week, all month, eventually it fills a bucket. Not because of one big splash, but because of countless tiny drops that never stop. That is what consistency looks like. You may not feel like you're doing something huge, but every small drop of effort is collecting into a reservoir of transformation. One day, The bucket overflows not because of a big action, but because of consistent ones. Look at successful entrepreneurs. They are not the smartest people in the room, but they are almost always the most consistent. They show up when others get tired. They try again when others quit. They improve their craft day after day, step by step. The world sees their success and calls it talent, luck, or timing. But those who understand the truth know that consistency, not magic, is what built everything they have. Consistency is the real secret weapon of success. Daily life proves this again and again. If you plant a seed and water it inconsistently, it dies. If you water it a little every day, it grows. If you practice an instrument once in a while, you stay average. If you practice daily, even for a few minutes, you become excellent. If you save money once a year, nothing changes. If you save a small amount every day or every week, your financial life transforms. Consistency is the difference between wishing and becoming, between hoping and achieving, between dreaming and living. Think about language learning. People try to learn a new language in 3 days of intense study. They burn out, forget everything, and quit. But those who practice daily for 10 minutes speak fluently 1 year later. Why? Consistency. The mind respects what you repeat. The body adapts to what you repeat. Success rewards what you repeat. Your future is shaped not by what you do occasionally, but by what you do consistently. Consistency also builds confidence. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you strengthen your belief in yourself. You begin to trust your own word. You begin to see yourself as someone who follows through. And that belief becomes the fuel that pushes you into higher levels of achievement. Inconsistency destroys confidence, but consistency builds it brick by brick. Look at people who wake up early every day. At first, it feels painful. Their body resists. Their mind complains. But after a few weeks, something changes easier. It becomes natural. It becomes part of their identity. That is the power of consistency. It rewires your identity. You no longer say, I'm trying to wake up early. You say, I am a disciplined person. Consistency turns actions into habits, habits into character, and character into destiny. Even nature teaches us consistency. The sun rises every day. The tides follow a rhythm. The seasons shift in perfect timing. Nothing in nature is random. Everything follows a pattern. And the human life that transforms is the one that embraces patterns of growth, patterns of discipline, patterns of improvement. When you build consistent routines, your life aligns with the natural laws that create success. Consistency is not about speed, it's about direction. A person who takes small steps every day will surpass and who sprints once and gives up. Slow progress is still progress. Small steps still move you forward. Even tiny improvements add up. If you get 1% better every day, you become 37 times better in a year, not because of intensity, but because of consistency. Your transformation is hiding inside your routine. Your greatness is hiding inside your discipline. Your future is hiding inside your consistency. Mastering yourself is the highest form of power. Before you conquer mountains, careers, dreams, or territories, you must conquer the one thing that determines everything: your own mind, your impulses, your emotions, your habits, your reactions. The truth is, most people are defeated long before life challenges them because they have not learned to govern themselves. You cannot lead others if you cannot lead yourself. You cannot control outcomes if you cannot control your choices, and you cannot master life until you master the person living inside your skin. Self-discipline is self-government. It is the understanding that you are the president of your own life, the CEO of your decisions, the ruler of your actions. No one can vote on your behavior. No one can legislate your habits. No one can force you to grow. You decide, you command, you execute, and every choice you make reveals who is truly sitting on the throne of your mind, your purpose or your impulses. Think about driving a car. A car can be powerful, fast, and beautifully designed. But if the driver has no control, no steering, no brakes, no awareness, that car becomes a weapon, not a tool. Life is the same. You may have talent, ambition, intelligence, and dreams, but if you have no control over yourself, you become dangerous to your own destiny. You crash relationships, you wreck opportunities, you destroy your progress. Mastery is not about power, it's about control. Consider your emotions. Many people are prisoners to their feelings. They get angry and say things that destroy connections. They feel discouraged and abandon their goals. They get bored and run back to old habits. They feel insecure and sabotage their progress. Life is not defeating them. Their lack of self-mastery is. When you master yourself, you learn to pause before reacting, to think before speaking, to act with intention instead of emotion. You become the captain of your own inner world, not a hostage of your moods. Self-mastery is also about managing your impulses. In a world full of temptation, social media, entertainment, unhealthy food, distractions, noise, your ability to say no becomes your superpower. Most people say yes to everything except their future. They say yes to comfort, yes to laziness, yes to instant pleasure, yes to procrastination. And every yes to comfort is a no to growth. But the ones who master themselves understand something powerful. If you control what you consume, you control who you become. Daily life gives countless examples. Imagine you're on a diet. You promise yourself you won't eat sugar, but then you walk past a bakery. The smell hits you. The cravings hit you. Your mind starts negotiating. Just one piece, it won't hurt. At that moment, you're not fighting sugar, you're fighting yourself. And every time you win that internal battle, your discipline grows stronger. Self-mastery is built through small victories that no one sees, but everyone eventually feels. Look at successful people, athletes, entrepreneurs, thinkers, leaders. Their greatest achievement is not what they built, but who they became. They mastered their schedule, their habits, their diet, their mind, their priorities. They did not allow distractions to dictate their actions. They did not allow fear to silence their dreams. They did not allow laziness to steal their time. Before they mastered their careers, they mastered their inner world. Before they controlled outcomes, they controlled themselves. Mastery begins inside before it shows outside. Think of a thermostat versus a thermometer. A thermometer reflects the environment. It rises and falls depending on the temperature around it. A thermostat controls the environment. It sets the temperature, and everything around it must adjust. People without self-mastery are thermometers. They react, bend, collapse, and change based on the world around them. But people who master themselves are thermostats. They set the temperature of their life, their mood, their habits, their standards. They do not wait for the world to change. They change themselves and the world follows. Self-mastery also requires honesty. Most people lie to themselves. I'll start tomorrow. I'm doing my best. I don't have time. I'll change when things get easier. But things don't get easier. You get stronger. And strength comes from truth. When you master yourself, you stop making excuses and start making decisions. You stop waiting and start acting. You stop blaming circumstances and start taking ownership. True power begins when you admit the truth about your habits, your weaknesses, your patterns, and decide to rise above them. Think about climbing a mountain. The higher you go, the thinner the air becomes. You cannot climb higher with excess baggage. You must drop weight. In the same way, you cannot rise in life while carrying undisciplined habits, emotional baggage, and uncontrolled impulses. Mastery requires shedding what no longer serves your future. It requires choosing the higher path even when the lower path is easy. It requires sacrificing comfort for character. Self-mastery also transforms your relationships. When you control your temper, you protect the people you love. When you control your ego, you build stronger connections. When you control your words, you avoid unnecessary battles. Mastering yourself makes life smoother, calmer, and clearer, not because life changed, but because you changed. Even your thoughts need mastery. You must learn to filter what enters your mind. Not every thought deserves attention. Not every fear is real. Not every doubt is truth. The mind left unguarded becomes a battlefield. But the mind under discipline becomes a fortress. When you master your thoughts, you master your decisions. When you master your decisions, you master your results. Mastery is not perfection. Mastery is responsibility. It is taking ownership of your life, your habits, your reactions, and your growth. It is choosing discipline over impulse, purpose over distraction, and long-term gain over short-term pleasure. When you master yourself, you step into a level of power the world cannot take away, circumstances cannot shake, and challenges cannot break. Listen to me, there comes a moment in every person's life when you must stop standing at the doorway of destiny and finally walk through it. Not tomorrow, not one day, not when you feel ready. It says now, because the truth is greatness does not come to the comfortable. It comes to the courageous. It comes to the disciplined. It comes to the one who decides, I will no longer live as a prisoner of my own potential. I will rise even if I must rise alone. You have heard the principles. You have felt the conviction. Now it is time for the transformation. And transformation does not happen in the mind first. It happens in your decisions. Decisions about who you want to be. Decisions about what you will tolerate. Decisions about what you will no longer allow. Your destiny is waiting on one thing, your decision to discipline yourself beyond every excuse that has held you back. See, this is your moment to become unrecognizable. This is your moment to rewrite your story. This is your moment to break the version of yourself that settled, that hesitated, that waited for permission. Because the strongest version of you is standing behind the door of discipline, knocking, saying, let me out. I'm ready to lead your life now. Every champion you admire started where you are, standing between who they were and who they could become. They weren't chosen, they chose themselves. They weren't lucky, they were consistent, they weren't perfect, they were disciplined. They made a decision and then made that decision daily. That is what separates dreamers from doers, wishers from winners, the average from the exceptional. You must decide today that your life will no longer be governed by your moods, but by your mission. Not by your fears, but by your future. Not by your distractions, but by your destiny. When you make that decision, everything in your life begins to shift. Your habits shift, your mindset shifts. Your energy shifts, your confidence shifts, your entire identity shifts. And soon, even the person you used to be won't recognize the person you've become. There will be days when you feel tired, days when you doubt yourself, days when the old version of you tries to pull you back. But when that moment comes, remember this. About discipline is choosing what you want most over what you want now. And what you want most is too valuable, too important, too necessary to be sacrificed on the altar of comfort. Look at your life. You've carried dreams inside you long enough. You've waited long enough. You've postponed greatness long enough. The world has seen what you look like undisciplined. Now it's time for them to see what you look like unstoppable, unshakable, unbreakable, focused, driven, transformed. This is where you draw the line between the old you and the new you, between excuses and excellence, between intention and execution, between potential and purpose. You have the power right now to shift the entire course of your life. That power is not motivation. It is not emotion. It is not a feeling. It is discipline. Discipline is the sword that cuts through fear. Discipline is the hammer that breaks limitations. Discipline is the compass that points you toward destiny. Discipline is the engine that drives your purpose forward. And when you wield it, life bows, opportunities open, strength rises, confidence awakens, and suddenly you become the kind of person who doesn't wait for the future. You create it. So rise. Rise with intention. Rise with clarity. Rise with purpose. Rise with a determination that shakes the foundations of every limitation that ever tried to stop you. Rise until your habits change. Rise until your mindset shifts. Rise until your future becomes brighter than your past. Rise until your life becomes a testimony of what discipline can build. You were not born to be average. You were not designed for mediocrity. You were created to soar, to lead, to build, to influence, to dominate your environment. But none of that will happen until you master the one person who determines your destiny, you. Now is the time. This is the hour. Your moment is here. Discipline yourself until your life becomes unrecognizable, and watch how the world will look at you with amazement, wondering how you rose so high, not knowing the fire, the focus, and the discipline it took to build the version of you you were always meant to become.